Once there was a man who went searching for the true age of the Earth. In his struggles to discover it, he stumbled on a grave threat. Beautiful spring day, Pasadena, California, 1966. Business is booming, life's good. Except for one man, a geochemist named Claire Patterson, known as Pat. He knows that everyone he sees is in danger from an invisible menace. And he's determined to put a stop to it, no matter what the cost.
That's part of the Cosmos series. Have you been checking that out on television, Fox and National Geographic? If you have you got your fact checker sitting right next to you when you watch it? We're going to talk about that with Dr. Stephen Meyer, who's director of the Discovery Institute Center for Science and Culture. He's also a founder both of the intelligent design movement and of the Center for Science and Culture's Intelligent Design's primary intellectual and scientific headquarters. Cambridge University trained, no slouch. That's how he got that PhD after his name. He's the author of multiple peer-reviewed publications. This is important because in my case, I would make Dr. Meyer an expert witness. So I'm reading his credentials, Your Honor, into the record. He's written publications dealing with technical, scientific, philosophical, and other books and journals. And his latest, Darwin's Doubt, The Explosive Origin of Animal Life and the Case for Intelligent Design. That was a fascinating interview I had with Stephen, by the way. And if you go back to our past programs tab, you can go through and hear that argument. Absolutely brilliant. Okay, so I did my homework in preparation for our time together, Stephen, and I watched Cosmos. And I must say right out of the gate, what caught my attention is that one of the executive producers is Seth MacFarlane, the guy who does the Family Guy cartoon and an ardent, avowed atheist. Now, I'm not sure that how much of his worldview is superimposed in his role as an executive producer, but it certainly caught my attention. So who's funding this program, and what do you think the end game is? There's an awful lot of cartoons that fold their way through this series, by the way, not just science, but science distilled to a grade school level by using graphic novel images to try to convey history. Talk to us about this series.
Well, the series has two clearly discernible agendas, and they're both related. The first is that it's trying to say that science properly understood supports a materialistic worldview, and this is absolutely clear right out of the chute. In the first episode, they have Neil Tyson deGrasse reprise the famous motto of the first Cosmos series, and he quotes Carl Sagan saying, "The cosmos is all there is, or ever was, or ever will be." This is the materialist credo. The universe is eternal and self-existent and self-creating, and in this very same episode, deGrasse is telling us that we should follow the evidence where it leads. And what's ironic about the first of these two agendas is the evidence does not support an eternal, self-existent cosmos, but rather it's pointing to clearly to the idea that the universe has a definite beginning. That has been the overwhelming message of modern cosmology as various evidences have piled up, all pointing to a definite beginning to the universe rather than to the idea that the universe is eternal. So first agenda is the universe is all there is, and it's the end all and be all, the thing from which everything else came. This and that's another way of saying the worldview of scientific materialism is what's being espoused. The second agenda is very closely related to it, and that is the idea that religion has impeded the progress of science, and that as we look at the history of science, we see time and time again science has advanced as people have thrown off religion, and science has been impeded when religion has played a role. And in order to right the role of, in particular, Christian faith, Christian belief, out of the rise of modern science and out of the history of science, the series makes a number of really egregious historical errors. And so that's the twofold agenda, and I think both of the clearly discernible ideological agendas that are on display in this series are both very problematic.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. Let me go to the second point that you made about Tyson, because he has made the statement, apparently, that he believes in intelligent design, of what you are, not only an advocate, but you're a pioneer in this area, that intelligent design actually thwarts his concept, the advance of scientific knowledge. And he has worked very closely with Richard Dawkins, talking again about science, spirituality, and what he calls the spirituality of science. Now, no one sheds their worldview at the door of the laboratory or the Supreme Court or the Oval Office. So it seems to me that going into this Cosmos series, I don't think it's rocket science, no pun intended, that he starts with the presupposition that there is no intelligent designer and very little, if any, evidence to intelligent design. That tells me I can pretty much predict what the outcome's going to be, right?
Well, correct, but these guys didn't even attempt to shed their worldview at the door. In fact, this isn't a matter of worldview subtly influencing the presentation of science. This is a piece of worldview advocacy. It's an ideological piece from the beginning. It's polemical. They're trying to make the case that science, properly understood, supports an atheistic worldview or a materialistic worldview. It's indistinguishable from the books by the new atheists who were making the very same argument, and it's no surprise that the host is very chummy with Richard Dawkins, who is very famous for making the exact same argument. So this isn't an objective piece of science documentary making that's gone a little bit awry because the worldview of the producers or the host have crept in here and there. The very point of this series is to make a case for for scientific atheism, and to also it's a brief against religious belief, arguing that religious faith, quite to the contrary of the actual historical record, the history of science itself, but they want to argue that religious faith has impeded the progress of science at every step.
Yeah, absolutely. Here's a quote from Tyson. He says, "Every account of a higher power that I've seen described, of all religions that I've seen, include many statements with regard to the benevolence of that power. When I look at the universe and all the ways the universe wants to kill us, I find it hard to reconcile that with statements of benevolence." Let me take a break. I can't say it, but you're getting the point, friends. I'm glad that Dr. Stephen Meyer is with us. I want to continue talking about what he identifies as some real egregious problems in this series, airing both on Fox and National Geographic. But there's also a seismic shift on the subject of global warming. More after this. We'll get back to the program in just a moment. But first, did you know that there are multiple ways to give to Moody Radio? If you visit us online at moodyradio.org and click on the Giving tab, you'll see that there's a variety of options to choose from. Or if you'd like to reach us by phone, you can call 1-800-DL-MOODY. That's 1-800-356-6639. That's 1-800-356-6639. And thanks again for your support.
This is the method of science, so powerful that it has carried our robotic emissaries to the edge of the solar system and beyond. It has doubled our lifespan, made the lost worlds of the past come alive. Science has enabled us to predict events in the distant future and to communicate with each other at the speed of light, as I am with you right at this moment. This way of thinking has given us powers that Al Hazen himself would have regarded as wizardry. But it was he who put us on this rough, endless road. And now it has taken us to a place where even light itself is enshrouded in darkness.
More audio from the series Cosmos. Dr. Stephen Meyer is with us, and as a man who advocates the intelligent design position, he takes umbrage with much of what is posited in this particular program. The host of this program is a man who would not call himself an atheist. He said that if you had to give him a label, he would call himself an agnostic. But he said, I remain unconvinced by any claims anyone has ever made about the existence or the power of a divine force operating in the universe. So, Stephen, my question to you, particularly as director of the Discovery Institute Center for Science and Culture and a founder both of the Intelligent Design Movement and of the Center for Science and Culture at the Discovery Institute, it has to be a little bit frustrating, if not a slight bit maddening, to be able to say, well, they get this platform, national audience. When do we get the opportunity to rebut? But because, of course, the way that this is put out during the series is it's indisputable, peer-reviewed, vetted, absolute fact. And to John Doe sitting in his easy chair watching this, having his bowl of popcorn and his glass of soda, he's going to swallow it, no pun intended, hook, line, and sinker. How do we get a booth in the marketplace so that you're able to say, well, let's review some of the evidence? That's all we're asking for. Just give us the booth, give us the opportunity.
Well, that's a big part of what we do at the center here at Discovery Institute, and we have scientists and philosophers of science and historians of science writing books. We produce documentaries. We've even had a documentary featuring our work for theatrical release, the Ben Stein film Expelled. So we're trying to get a contrary message out. In a way, I'm not discouraged by the prominence of this program, because it really shows the public's immense interest in these deep worldview questions and what science has to say about it. An awful lot of our discourse right now is focused on politics, whether it's in the mainstream media or talk radio. But whenever we're on programs like yours or Michael Medved's or other national programs, the hosts are always surprised at the incredible interest that is expressed. The board often lights up with calls, and so in a way, I think the interest that's being shown in this series is a positive thing, and the stridency of the message on the other side, I think, is actually evidence of the weakness of their position. The new atheism was hatched as something new in about 2006, 2007, in the wake of about 10 to 15 years of steady advance in the case for intelligent design. And I think people on the other side finally said, hey, look, we've got to push back, because the arguments for design that are being posited by people like Michael Behe, for example, are really catching on with the public. They're intuitive, they get them, they seem very logical and scientifically based. And so the big push to say, hey, science supports atheism, or DeGrasse is a little more subtle. He says he's agnostic, but of course he's really pushing the worldview of scientific materialism, the idea that matter and energy are the thing from which everything else comes, or as he puts it, the cosmos is all that there is or ever was. That's a worldview position that they claim is based on science, but I think they're having to claim that so stridently because the evidence is actually running so strongly against them that there has been a need to try to push back and win back market share in the public. Public mind.
That is a brilliant observation. And, I think I have to agree with you, because I'm wondering, their position, it seems to me, eliminates all question of doubt. Is there another way? Is there a possibility? And that takes me to a new poll that we're starting to see a shift in the American culture's way of thinking about the origins of life. Talk to us about this new poll that came out.
Well, yeah, there's a new poll. It's been getting a lot of attention, and the AP released it, and it shows that a majority of Americans are skeptical of Darwinian evolution. And this really has upset a lot of the people in the scientific establishment, because for them, Darwinian evolution is the guarantor, the bulwark of this materialistic worldview. And for many scientists, elite scientists in the establishment, they have failed to distinguish their worldview, their materialistic worldview, from the practice of science itself. So questioning Darwinism is a way of expressing skepticism about the worldview it supports, and for many scientists that's just unacceptable because that worldview is inviolate. It's a given. And yet I think what it shows is that the public has become very adept at distinguishing between ideological claims made in the name of science, which is precisely what the Cosmos series has done, and what the actual evidence of science shows. In this same poll, it showed hardly anyone doubts the germ theory of disease or that DNA produces proteins, but they are skeptical about Darwinian evolution, and I think there's a real difference in the standing of those two different types of scientific claims.
I do too. Stephen, the time went far too quickly. Thank you. I just love these conversations, and I appreciate so much all that you do. So we've done two things. We put your website on ours so that people can learn more. It's fascinating. Don't forget that Dr. Meyer is director of the Discovery Institute Center for Science and Culture, and very much a leader, a pioneer, one of the founders of the intelligent design movement in this country. And we've also put his new book up there for you to review. It's new, not new. I've had a chance to talk about it a few months ago, but it's a fabulous book, Darwin's Doubt: The Explosive Origin of Animal Life and the Case for Intelligent Design. Check it out. My thanks to Dr. Meyer.